Very warm greetings to of the day to everyone present here. I, Sumuk Kanvilava, take great pleasure to welcome you to the flagship event of XIMB, the Business Excellence Summit. The Business Excellence Summit sees many prominent industry titans visiting the campus and enlightening our students on various industry trends and gives the students a chance to interact with the change makers and industry leaders, provides for a rich learning experience. This year, it is back in the offline mode after 3 years. The BES 2022 edition has been bigger, better, and more exciting than ever. This year, we've had the honor of hosting some of the greatest personalities from different walks of life. As we start this final day of the summit, I am sure that we are in the highest of our spirits. The theme for this year is transcending boundaries, going above and beyond what is known to unleash the true potential that lies hidden within every person. In the words of Anthony Lambert, the purpose of life is to transcend our limits and be all that we can be. We have amongst us one such personality who has challenged the status quo and transcended the limits to achieve great success in life. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our speaker for the day, Mr. Ashish Garg. An alumnus of IIM Bangalore, Mr. Ashish Garg comes from a prominent business family, but he chose not to limit his role as a custodian of his family's business empire, but instead created a niche for himself. In 2014, when the real estate sector was plagued by unethical practices leading to declining customer trust, there was a huge need for trusted, transparent, and ethical realtors who delivered as committed. Mr. Ashish Garg pioneered just that through his company, the G Group, where he is the managing director. Lavanya, a maiden venture of residential layout land and Mr. Ashish Garg's first ever brainchild, has proven to be the shining beacon in the journey of Group G and was awarded the best plotted land development by the Times of India in the year 2019. And Sir was also felicitated for his excellent performance in the field of real estate by the Times of India. Sir's great vision has led to path-making projects like Mani Tirumala, Grand Bazaar, Grand Awas, Grace, and 6 projects of Lavanya and Grand Riviera. Sir has more than 4,000 apartments under construction presently. Sir, we are honored to have you here with us today. I am sure that all of us are excited to hear you speak. And the topic for the day is, it's not about the fish, it's about the art of fishing. I request you, sir, to please come on the stage and enlighten us with your words of wisdom.
Only my mother praises me this way. Thank you, I'm so grateful. I'll give you a better introduction.
I got interview calls from the Harvard School of Business, London Business School, the Duke University, Indiana Academy. I interviewed with them all. I got rejected by them all. A friend then jokingly told me, dude, you are from Haryana and the only culture you know is agriculture.
I grew up with 5 of my cousins. We were very simple children and we were averagely rich. We used to get 1 pair of Bata shoes and 2 pair of uniforms every year. We would admire those supposedly wealthy kids who would come in fancy cars. They were Tata Bacche, we were Bata Bacche. Thereafter, our family chose to send us to boarding school so that we gained more social maturity. I was sent to Mayo College, Ajmer. I don't think it is the most appropriate name for a residential boys' school. Mayo, considering the color and texture of Mayo, Mayo was a Rajput school and it always had deans like, remember Amitabh Bachchan whispering, Parampara, Pratishtha, Anusashan. But we boys, I assure you, were always just whispering, Pratishtha, Nishtha, Smita, Avita, and all other girls' names you could think of. Those were desperate times. And then we went on to college. There were actually pretty Pratishtha, naughty Nishtha, sweet Smita, Avita, Avita. And our pocket money was average. But we didn't want to look average at all, not here. So we found ways to look rich, though we were poor. And then when we finally completed education and came back home and started going to our offices to learn business, we came under its deed, my father. Remember? Parampara, Pratishtha, Anusashan. But the most important thing that we realized that all the way life was hard, not because life was actually hard, because our fathers chose to make it hard for us. They looked poor, but they were actually rich. They had enough money and more, just that they did not know how to live luxuriously. They could go around donating money to charity and religious events, but could never think of anything beyond 800. These fathers and deans have their own unique ways of teaching their kids. It's more like a lion now teaching its cub how to hunt. Now it is just not about food, it is about survival. I think, like the Indian musical Gharanas, where they have passed on the knowledge of music over generations and generations to keep the sanctity of the art alive, to keep the traditions alive. Similarly, our folks who have been into business for generations and generations have tried to consciously and subconsciously keep this art alive. They have never believed in passing on wealth because they realize far more important than the fish is the art of fishing. This is what they wanted to preserve. They did not want wealth to pass on, but this art to pass on. And they did it in a subtle way without we even realizing it. Idioms, proverbs, and folk stories are briefs, but are drawn from long experiences. They make a great impact. They surrogately teach you very meaningful and important lessons of life which lasts a lifelong, and the message is passed over generations and generations without hassle. Once, a group of dacoits thought of conducting Vishnu Yagna. So they kidnapped few Brahmins and brought them to jungle and asked them to perform the puja. The Brahmins did. After the puja, the dacoits gave them money. Brahmin refused. It's okay, we don't need. So they said, no, take it. It's God's work. You take it. And hesitantly, they took it. And when they were coming back, on their way back in the jungle, they were stopped by the dacoits again and were robbed of their money. The dacoits said, if you had to take back the money, why did you give it to us in the first place? Now, the dacoits said, what you did was your karma, what we did was our karma. You did what you were meant to do, we did what we were meant to do. So you see, very subtly, the message is passed on that you have to be true to your role, irrespective of the nature of the work. I'll give you another example. For instance, so there was an MBA of a top-notch college, traveling in train, of course not sleeper class, he was an MBA, and let's say he had a side berth. He was sharing his berth with a boy from our village, let's say Ashu, and the MBA guy was Vyas. They started talking, and Vyas told him about his lifestyle and told him we were taught to get up early, chart out your day, and create short-term goals and long-term goals, go to work hard because hard work is the key to progress. At the end of the day, review your day's progress. And then he asked Ashu, what were you taught? Ashu said, in our village, we were taught, if you ever find a guy like this, never leave him. This, you see, has a strong message on entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is about identifying talent and nurturing the talent so that it performs to its full potential. Now coming back to fathers, fathers would go any length, the lions would go to any length to teach their cubs the art of hunting.
People thought builders and politicians.
So, the fathers would go to any length to teach their kids the art, because it is not about the food, it is about survival. Once a politician father had a son who came back after education. The son asked his father to teach him politics. Father said, no, leave politics. Politics is a dirty thing. Son said, no, I want to be into politics. Teach me politics. Father said, fine. Go to the balcony of the first floor. The son went. The father then asked him to jump. Son said, are you crazy? I'll break my bones. Father said, no, son, jump. I'm there. I'll catch you. Trust me. Son jumped and broke his bones. The father then walked to his son and said, now, son, this is your first lesson in politics. Never even trust your father. My father was a very simple man. After completing his education, when he came back home, his lion, my grandfather, funded him so that he could start a trading business with two of his cousins. And now I am exactly quoting the situation. One day my grandfather went to their trading shop and asked the other, how was his son performing? They said, he is too simple for business and he drinks a lot of tea. My grandfather said, if he is not even worth few cups of tea, the cost of which is pinching you, then you don't have to keep him as your partner. He's not worth it. If he's a fool, good, bad, ugly, he is mine. I gave him birth. I will suffer, not you. And he took him back. This is when he told him the intricacies of business, that simplicity wins over shrewdness. You don't need to be shrewd. Simplicity creates goodwill, and goodwill is what creates businesses. He said, you don't need their shrewdness, you go by your own. Now this simple man had 6 of us coming back almost together after completing our education. Now he had the responsibility to train us simple and naive guys, so that we could face the outside business world. Our fathers, subtly and consciously, we all were different personality types with different abilities and capabilities and limitations. Like one was Vayu, one was Agni, one was Prithvi, one was Akash, one was Dil, and 6th I would be the Captain Planet. So everybody had different limitations, but they successfully imbibed in us some values. If you remember, we said, कुछ महाबली बाहुबली होते हैं, कुछ को बनाना पड़ता है. So over generations, they have been successful in training these generations which come subtly without even they realizing, so that they go out and preserve this art of fishing. If you think me to be wise, I'll tell you something which will make you think otherwise. It is just not me who is successful. All my 6 cousins are successful and they're doing wonderful in different parts of the world. We are mostly in different cities, because in our tribe they say the best brother is brother in the next city. I could be wise. That wisdom, those subtle messages which has ensured that all the 6 cousins are successful. We belong to a village, Agroha, in Haryana. That tribe has its own ways and methodologies, and consciously and subconsciously, they've always emulated things, so that they emulate in a way that inherited wealth can never give you happiness or glory or pride or the peace of mind. It's only the art of fishing which can actually give you pride and the peace of mind. Now, when I set out and started this real estate business, we set out with about 7 or 8 people. Now, when I was preparing for this talk, I realized that subconsciously, these are the same 7 or 8 people who have been together with the company as the company grew. More people joined. Now there are about 250 people, but they all came under him. This is not a normal corporate structure. In a normal corporate structure, as the company grows, you laterally bring in people to head bigger operations. But here, subconsciously, I was trying to emulate the same learnings which I got. The same 6 cousins were trained and brought up, and new people joined only under the family members, isn't it? Now that when we have consciously realized this, we are toying with an idea that we further motivate them, upgrade them, and cause them to head various sister concerns under Group G. Let's see how it goes, and I'll keep you updated for my future talks. Indian entrepreneurship inherently has been about worshipping Goddess Lakshmi. The dominating market, killing competition, monopolizing trade, these are more East India Company trades and Indian warrior class trades. Indian entrepreneurship has never been about it. Indian entrepreneurship has been about keeping your garden clean, nurturing the flowers in it, weeding it out, bothered about the gardens outside. Chanakya, Chandragupta was not meant to be the king. Chanakya made him the king. So who is wiser? These value systems do have something in them. And I think like Indian yoga, Indian Ayurveda, Indian classic music, probably Indian entrepreneurship also has some intrinsic value system, some of which has been preserved, some of which has been lost, but there are something which is worth preserving it. At one point, Indians did 25% of world's GDP. Then came the Mughals, then the British, then the Congress. Now, whenever we have a more conducive ruling regime, maybe Indian entrepreneurship again flourishes to its pinnacle. I'm not a life coach or a spiritual guru. I'm just an entrepreneur who handles issues every day with a fetish for public speaking, and you guys are currently my guinea pigs. I may not have a path-breaking idea or a life-changing idea, but what I do know is that sometimes these small realizations of life can make a change in someone's life in a way that it can be his or her game changer. If whatever I've said you until now helps you achieve something, you know my Paytm number is 969696. Just get it. It would be an honor to be a part of your success story. Here, I think it would be better if I take questions from you and try to answer it from my experiences.
Sir, thank you very much for your enriching and insightful words. I'm sure audience has learned a lot from this lesson, from this session. I would ask the participants to please raise their hands to ask questions.
Good morning, sir. Thank you so very much for your talk. I'm Shilpa Gupta from the exam batch of 21-23. So one of the things that you said was that you left your family, business and everything to try to venture out on your own. Why? Like you had a very strong foundation, so were you not hesitant that this is something that I'm trying to do on my own? What if I fail? I have like, so what was your thought process and how can we, young business entrepreneurs, try to do the same?
I think now what this tribe has been doing, the idea is to preserve the art of fishing and not the wealth. So to preserve the art of fishing, I think they want their descendants to go and start something of their own, so that they learn the art from the start. You know, it is not about, it is about the art of fishing. So that is what they try to emulate consciously and subconsciously. That was the message we got. We were looked upon if we went out and started something of our own, rather than stay back and be under the shadows of our father. This is a strong culture which this tribe has. So, and it's much easier to go out and start something of your own than learn in the shadow of an existing boss. Initial few years might be more difficult, but then after that, I think you take a lot of calls in your life independently. You get that confidence. You have that confidence that even if everything fails, even if I go back to the street, I will come back to where I was because I know the art of making money. So this, if you see, is a trait amongst even the top leaders. Trump, for instance, or Steve Jobs, for instance, they knew the arts. Even when they came back to ground zero, they could go up. There is also a small research which says most of the lottery winners, or almost all the lottery winners, after some point of time, will go back to where they were, will go back to the same levels of wealth which they had before winning the lottery. Whereas people who are self-made generally go back to their own levels, even if they go bankrupt for some point. So this is the art which is more important. And I think once you take the plunge, you'll definitely find the way through. So some tribes encourage you to go out. Some don't want you to go through that trouble. But I think it's worth the trouble if it's 2 years.
Good afternoon. Sir, you are yourself from IIM Bangalore. So, how has the B School helped you with the art of fishing, sir?
So it helps you with the procedures and operating systems and standard operating procedures and various things like that. But when you start from scratch, because as an MBA you are more trained to be a business administrator, you are trained to go to corporates and ensure that the systems keep running. If you fall back to very simple values when you start on, after a level this helps a lot. But when you start upon, so that is why they say 90% or 95% of the startups never actually start up. You'll have to, I think we have to go back to these basic values of entrepreneurship, about creating the goodwill, because goodwill is what will make money, about serving the need of the society. So if going back to those simple basics, I think helps companies start, because if you see the ratio, people who go through this training and this grind, this folk knowledge, the success rate, although they have been average student all through, the success rate in business or starting up a company is higher than MBA graduates, for instance. Because these simple basic values, maybe they matter more at the initial levels. Once you are corporatized, once you are in the higher point at the evolution of a corporate, probably these systems matter more.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Mehul Agarwal and I am from the XIMB PM batch of 22-24. So I would say it's safe to assume that you have added something of your own into that art of fishing that you got, and Exhibit A is the Group G. So if it's okay with you, can you pass on something of that to us that you will be passing on to your descendants? Thank you.
So I think, so I already have a son. And So I think so as I told you, as we grew up, we always thought that we were middle income, we were averagely rich, and we looked up to the guys who were supposedly wealthy. So I think I'll tell what I would do for my sons to be more practical and realistic. So he has gone to a boarding school, Rishi Valley, which has no frills. Rather than sending him to an elite school like Doom, for instance, we have chosen Rishi Valley, where you have people of all these strata. So first idea is to keep away people from the family wealth, because wealth can only spoil them. It is about the art of making money, not the money itself. And probably when he comes back to business, that is when these lions get activated. Before this, it's just the lioness who takes care of the kids in our kind of drive. So I think if I were to emulate my dad, when he comes back to business, I will see what kind of personality is he. Is he more of a marketing guy? Is he more of an operations guy? I'll let him choose his field and not come into my field. I'll give him the seed fund, and I'll ensure that his operations are profitable and not. So the difference between. So this is also interesting. The difference between startup and dhanda. Startup is nothing but a foreign return terminal of dhanda. What happens in startup is you start some operations. The operations would have taken decades to scale up because it would have scaled up by its own profits and surpluses. Whereas in a startup, an external agency funds it and takes the turnover to 100x and then makes profit after monopolizing the trade. But in the process, the entities which are funding are mainly foreign entities, either directly or through various agencies. And in a way, we are going into an economic dependence. We are losing an economic independence. That's the actual scenario. Flipkart was created. Binny Bansal got money. He might have got few 100 crores or 1,000 crores, but the company eventually went to a foreign entity. So this is how it is being operated. So startup and dhanda to quite some extent is similar. Startup, they just fund it and take the turnovers to 100x levels, and then they start making profits. But here you start creating profits and use the surpluses to scale up your company. So one thing here is, it's never about wealth. Never look at your bank balance because you'll get complacent. Why this collaborating? I mean, when you have enough, you don't need to work hard. So this is one important thing, that never look at your bank balance. So when we came, this is one good thing which we were also told, that when we create projects, we never calculate profits of the project. Project should have margin. For instance, when you're creating Grand Bazaar, this is one of India's largest organized marketplaces. It has 600 shops. It has partially started operating as well. So we never actually calculate profit or the projected profits. There should be margin. Not calculating profit is a very important learning of this tribe. They never calculate profit because that will make you complacent. That is, that will not help you. That's a demotive. That will make your hands more lenient. You start spending more because, and one day it just wipes off. So this is one thing. Never calculate your profits. Whichever trade you go into, serving the need of the society, making it more cost effective. There should be some profit. They said the best companies in Japan are the ones, so they have a club, I don't know what exactly they call the club, wherein the company has, for a constant about 40 years or something, need to make at least 1 rupee in profit and at least increase the turnover by 1 rupee. So it's a growing company and it's making profits. So this is an ideal company. Even if you make 1 rupee of profit, and even if your turnover is growing just by a rupee, you are poised to, because it never stops at 1 rupee, right? The idea is my turnover should increase and it should be profitable. So yeah, maybe these are some few intrinsic things. I will think more about it and list down a few of them. My son still has 8, so I need to actually think about it.
Hello, sir. I'm Arthur from Exam BBM. misconception is that there is a stigma that people who belong to business family know how to run a business. For someone who doesn't and who has ambition enough, how must he go about it?
So this is what, this has also become my kind of hobby, let's say. People who belong to the business families, it's nothing about genes. It is just about the ecosystem. So a lot of people grow up in romantic stories like Cinderella. And we grew up in this kind of stories, dacoits, beetroot, all this thing. Very, very practical. Their humor is also very goddamn practical. So it is just about the ecosystem. Otherwise, people who come from business families and if they started something of their own, there is nothing in the genes or anything. It is about those basic intrinsic values. So we are also making it as a hobby to actually list down those simple values so that people who do not belong, so that the art of fishing can further be preserved. So these simple values, and I am very, very convinced, looking at back all of our cousins, when all of them are doing good and all of them are successful and wonderful and starting there's something of their own, these simple basic value systems, which are very, very Indian. You see, in India, it is very local to Indian culture, the culture of this land. In Ramayana or in Mahabharata, the Pandavas, the Kauravas, the Ravan, the Ramsena, they never grew apart. They were always together till the end, except of course Vibhushan. So all of them always stood together. So this is very local to our culture. It is about keeping together till the end. People never change. So now, for instance, real estate is a very tough business. It's supposed to be a shield business. People think politicians and builders are the same because 95% of the people are dealing with 5% of bad name. But real estate is supposed to be a tough business, and a guy like me, a very average kind of a guy, should not have survived here, should not have survived here. The basic simple value system which we will also try to enlist, and it will not be more than 8 or 10. These makes a lot of difference in the way you think. I can think of one. As I said, the message is very easily passed upon if it is in the form of idioms or stories or proverbs. Then nothing changes. That is why probably the Gita is preserved to its purest form because it is in the form of prose. Otherwise, somebody would have changed something. It's a prose, if it's a poem, you can't change a. But if there is a situation, your supplier has supplied you something which is not up to the mark, your team has spoken to him and said there should be a reduction in the payments and stuff, but he is not agreeing. Finally, if he doesn't agree, pay him his amount, his final amount, and then do business with him. But never end in a dispute. The extra money which you pay will always come back to you, come back to you in the form of goodwill, which helps the business. So never end anything in a dispute. Even if you have to pay extra, tell out what you want to say, but the other party doesn't agree. Pay extra, but never end in a dispute. Basic learnings and very simple teachings, and which are also not very well. Try and compile it. Helps a lot if you want to go into business. It is nothing about being a part of this family. It is nothing about it. You can get some seed capital, but seed capital there are many ways. They say the first 3 F's which fund your business: family, friends, and foods. So there are various ways in which funds can be raised. And apart from that, this basic learning, there is nothing extra which these people have, which is increasing their strike rate. Just that this basic learning is not going outside. That could be a reason. And one more important difference which I have realized is, if I compare it to my friends in Leo, a lot of them grew up in an environment where money was considered an evil. In their breakfast table, because they had seen movies in Amitabh Bachchan where the Zamindar was always a villain. Inspired by that, in the breakfast table, their discussion was, if you are moneyed, you probably and mostly have done something evil. So if you think evil about something, if you subconsciously resist it, how do you actually get it? So this was also a phenomenon which is not happening in these tribes. A lot of tribes think money to be evil, but they eventually want it. So these are the simple things, but I am pretty sure, I am definite that they don't have anything apart from these few basic learnings, which we'll also try and compile and maybe speak out through talks.
in politics, we shouldn't even trust anyone, even our father. So, do you think that it is also true for the corporate world? Because now we are living in a very competitive environment, and everyone is competing with each other. And if someone is approaching you, there are high chances that there lies any self-interest in it also. So, do you think that this can also true for the corporate world?
So yeah, here, in a way, I'm at a wrong man at wrong place to some extent, because a lot of people be going into the corporate world, and I don't actually have a corporate experience. Our focus is very simple. This is also a simple value system which we follow. We are never bothered about competition. Monopolizing trade, dominating market is not a part of this culture. Okay, I'll tell you something. Actually, this I couldn't operate this, so I had to.
People thought builders
Let's go to the last
people.
last slide.
No,
Last
back.
slide. Yeah. So I'll tell you something. So this is very important. How many of you actually are thinking of starting something of your own at some point in your life? This flag, this has been there for hundreds of years. This flag has a brick and a coin. It has been there since ages. Do you know what it signifies? It has a very deep meaning, because Indian entrepreneurship has never been about individual growth or growth of a family. It has always been about keeping the entire village together. It has always been about that. So that is why the entire community has prospered, if you see. You see the Mittals, the Bansals, everybody has prospered everywhere. Goyals, Gargs, there are about 16 subtitles against, from this village, and everybody has prospered. Now what does this signify is, the coin and the brick, what happens whenever a descendant of this village comes to a new city, then all the previous descendants of this village are supposed to go to him and give him one coin and one brick. He will use the brick to build his shop, and he will use those coins as working capital to start a business. And he will do the same when somebody else comes later on. You see what beautiful thought it is. When anybody comes, everybody gives him a brick and a coin, so that he could build his shop and he could use that money as his working capital. That is what this flag signifies. And see, more interestingly, so this is again something which is spoken about in this tribe. To some of you it might have heard, why was this brick not used to build a home, but rather a shop? Because a shop can give you many homes, and it's not the other way around. It's the shop which can give you many homes. So this brick was supposed to be used to build a shop. It is always about keeping the art of fishing alive. It is not about giving you a home. So it was always used to build your shop, and the coin was used as a working capital. So you see how beautiful the thought was, the Indian entrepreneurship concept. It is, it is completely different. It is a thought which has been going on for hundreds, and this was practiced upon. Even now, people of my father's age, if somebody comes new to the city, they all go. Instead of a coin, they might be giving $100. It might not matter now. Everybody has the capital. But even now, this culture is preserved. This is what the parampara is. So this is again a very simple, basic values. Corporate world is, of course, the need of VR, and everything has a truth. India has a truth. West has a truth. No truth is greater or lesser than the other truth. Everything is a truth. We are more exposed to this truth. So I can talk more about this truth. So here it is always about oneness and togetherness. Throwing out people, bringing in somebody bigger than say, you see, in Groupji, you see Grand Bazaar, Grand Avas, all that we have built. It's the same set of people. It's the same set of people, the peon who had joined and who was initially very unprofessional. I mean, he would come very late. And initially, late for what? There was no work anyways. So this guy now is taking care of legal verifications. So the way we look at things is we have always kept these people together. It subconsciously becomes your family. And you grow with them. And people join in later. So the growth becomes easier in a way because it's just your garden. Everybody's true and honest. The thought of anybody quitting or you throwing out anybody just doesn't occur. Because what is yours, good, bad, ugly, what is yours is yours.
You can't throw out a cousin. Corporate, in a way, behaves differently. And we had a security guard. So here again, I felt the difference. So do you have, he in a span of 15 days passed away. He was a security officer on the start in one of our projects. He had lung infection and he passed away. His wife, his wife had a baby who was only 15 days old then. And they didn't have any folks to support them. But he was one of us. He's been there since the start. So the company will continue to pay him his salary till his kid becomes 18 years of age. It is a very subconscious kind of behavior because we consider it to be one. This is how we think. This is the thought process. Corporate, of course, I think there is much more relativism and competition. I don't have an experience there.
Will have something to take back home from this wonderful talk. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of Team BES and XIMB, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your valuable time and for sharing these wonderful insights. I would also like to extend a warm vote of thanks to our sponsors, special partner G Group and our refreshment partner Monginis. I would also like to extend a vote of thanks for our lovely audience for keeping the enthusiasm high and keeping the session engaging throughout. Sir, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude with a small token. I request the board member to please come up on the stage and felicitate sir. Now I would like to request the audience to please remain seated while the speaker takes her leave. The audience can now move on in an orderly fashion.